Welcome to this learning module in the AiMTT program on evaluation during the event. Today we're talking about the capturing of data during an event for evaluation, and that can be insights from management information or other form of analytics for this event or upcoming events. And we will see how to use that in order to make learning and evaluation be stronger based on facts. The goal of evaluation is to look back at how an event went, how communication went between stakeholders, decisions that were made, and how those decisions played out in a way that is neutral and is focused on learning for future events or improving in the future. And past experiences and the capturing of data from past experiences is a means of creating objective evaluation with a shared source of facts, in addition to the personal experiences of the people involved, which can of course be very subjective, but also valuable and add qualitative aspects to your evaluation. Well, what can go wrong when you're evaluating? Just opinions, no facts, just the perception of how things went instead of bolstering that with also factual information. Another issue with this process where people are really convinced of how they're doing things, that's the only right way, is that you get a confirmation bias, that even if facts are brought in, that people will just accept the facts that align with their original ideas and planning, and they're not being open-minded for improvement. Another pitfall can be to evaluate too late, because learnings are usually best received when the memory is still fresh and the attention is still on the event. And of course, when you're using data to support your evaluation, trusting too much on one data source or having a bias in a data source can also be a form of distortion of your evaluation. Ideally, you try to look at all the information objectively and be open to improvement, even if it does not align with your original thoughts and ideas. Evaluation gives you learning opportunities, and those can arise during and after the event. And those can be focused on improving on data insights. So, for example, you are working on AI models or alerting services, and your data engineers have been working on that, and the event gives you real-life feedback on how those performed. So that could be one form of feedback, but it can also be feedback more from the perspective of the crowd manager or other stakeholders, that they, based on insights, will make changes to original future planning based on the things that were captured in the data or insights that were yielded from data, both during and after the event when evaluating. Mentioned capturing data or archiving data a couple of times now, and this was done for SAIL and for some of the events leading up to SAIL. As part of the chosen data architecture solution, archiving was part of what the data services hub was doing, allowing us to create collections of data that could be analyzed also during, but also after the event, to gain better insights or to improve on analytical models. And this was done successfully in several cases. And some of the examples of learning that were yielded from that were cross-validation of simulations and versus the capturing of CCTV, where simulated agents were actually compared the counts that were generated by the simulation to what we were seeing on CCTV for the predicted time period. This was done at the Memorial Day. A face shot ring was used for weather-related alerts, where in particular heat stress and temperature sensors were used and reused also for sail, although it wasn't as hot at sail as it was at face shot at the ring. It was used to prepare those types of alerts. And the Pride was used for data coverage and quality improvements for boat sensors in the canals of Amsterdam, allowing also for some improvements in the meantime for additional sensor placement to make sure that some of the spots that were hard to measure during Pride were better covered during the sail event. Also, the density or the level of service on the water was improved during sail. Also, using feedback from visual confirmation from drones, CCTV, and just looking out the window allowed us to improve on model predictions. And these were especially for vehicles for the craft without transponders, because those could not be measured directly, but were rather estimated or inferred, and those estimations became a lot better with feedback. It's very important also to have that validation and feedback be a constant part of the way you work together. And for example, crowd alerts at the ferry locations were also improved significantly during the event, based on an initial threshold that was changed to a threshold that triggered after a certain time had been spent crossing the threshold, making the alert more meaningful. And then this reduced the number of alerts that were given, but the alerts that were given were more meaningful because of it. And ground truthing is sometimes used as a term in these cases, because ground truthing meant, in this case, have your prediction or have your alert or your sensor be corroborated by another data source or a person who actually is on the spot and who can verify or disqualify what the model is saying. And this builds trust. This builds also a sense of being able to rely on what the model is outputting, and it gives the crowd managers more confidence in the actual predictions once this ground truthing has taken place, making it a large part of learning from a data engineering perspective, and to make something that's actually useful for a crowd manager. For the crowd managers, there were other types of learnings. For example, one of the things that was frequently used were predictions from the AI model for the upcoming day. These were featured in the daily startup of the day, because sail was a multi-day event. This gained some traction because there was confidence in the predictions, and these predictions were being used in the stand-up, giving them a good idea of what was coming for the upcoming day. And one of the noticeable things was during the sail-in, there was road traffic was underestimated, especially at the end of the day. And that was because it was recorded and played back, we could time lapse and show where the obstructions had taken place, where the congestion had occurred. So this was then used to make some adaptations to the way the sail out was planned to avoid similar crowding on the road with traffic. So this was useful. These sort of learnings were applied during the event itself. Decision making based on facts and also within a multidisciplinary setting was also made more easily once the corroboration had taken place that alerts were reliable. And for example, with the starting and stopping of ferry services, this was another example of where initially some trust had to be built that the alerts were useful, and that what the digital twin or common operational picture was showing was accurate. But once that happened, this was a useful tool for crowd managers from the event itself, the municipality, the safety region, and the Port of Amsterdam to make joint decisions. And at that point, it was useful as a form of decision support, allowing them to have the same facts to make the decisions on when to start and stop the ferry services. One of the aspects that wasn't prepared upfront for sale was management information. That's in dashboarding, specifically with the goal of looking back at how the event had proceeded and what had happened. And one of the things that was happening that there were different expectations on what this should be, and early attempts to produce such information rather created confusion and doubt than actually solving things. So that led also to another kind of learning, and that was to first be very careful with what was reported, because sometimes some type of measurements weren't meant to create the information that was being asked. For example, reliable unique visitor counts could not be reported from sensors that were meant to capture the passing of people without identifying those people. So there was no way to create that information from the sensors that were available. And some people did not understand what the data was actually representing, so they were using data or summing it up to come to a unique visitor count, but this wasn't possible. So this created some confusion, and more to be a data catalog was then put in place with some data definitions to avoid this for the data engineers, but not for the end user, for the crowd managers. So the data engineers at some point stopped summarizing the wrong things, but the crowd managers still sometimes drew the wrong conclusions from other information because they simply did not completely understand what the data was representing at some points. And this was compounded by the fact that it's also sensitive information commercially, how many visitors there are exactly, being tied to sponsorship. So actually committing to a certain number without being able to measure it was also difficult and something you would rather avoid. So in the end, this number wasn't created because the censoring and other measurements simply did not support it. So in another event, you would either prepare for it or avoid it altogether. Another sensitive topic was risks or potentially dangerous situations, because alerts were not meant to actually capture the risk, but rather to prevent it. It wasn't a risk log. So if we would have simply summarized all the alerts, that would have created a wrong image, that a lot of things had gone wrong while the actual event had proceeded smoothly. So with these management information needs, some of these questions were asked, but they might not have been the right questions to ask. And one of the things that we would definitely recommend also for future events is to make this part of your preparation. If there is to be a dashboard to wrap up a day or to summarize how the day went, it could be very useful. But then make that dashboard from your archived data. Set up some procedures to process that data once it's archived and to transform it into your reporting environment, but also match your information needs with the data that you have available to avoid discussions about unique visitors that you cannot produce. So either manage those expectations we cannot deliver, or connect other data sources so that you can. But one or either of those things could help you. Being stuck in the middle will not. And also here, clear indicators, clear data definitions to avoid misinterpretations is important. And also allocate some time to to make that scheduled extract, transform, and load script to turn your data into management information, because otherwise people will be doing it on the fly, and then the timeliness of your report will suffer. And of course, if you're making an information product, such as a management information dashboard, test it with your intended end users to make sure that you actually hit the mark. To conclude for this part of the module, archiving data from your event is useful for evaluation and learning. It adds facts to your evaluation, which can also otherwise be subjective or qualitative only. Evaluation in itself can also help on improving your reliability of data insights. It gives feedback to your data scientists and engineers, but hopefully also provides some insights for the crowd manager, giving him or her some unexpected insights to improve on current decisions or the next performance. And if you're going the route of providing management information, that can be very useful, but then also take it into account as part of your event preparation, and make sure that when you're reporting your information and when you're evaluating, that everybody is understanding the data that you're using, especially when there's sensitive parts in between, because otherwise the data will create more confusion than actually contribute to evaluation and learning. Thank you for watching, and maybe see you on one of the other modules.